I want to take some time to walk us through some of the memory lanes and share with the audience on some of the paths that I've taken that got me to where I am today. So I was born and raised in Malaysia, in a town nearby, nearby the city center called Ayapanas, where majority of the houses are either slums or illegal housing. My parents and my siblings didn't grow up with a lot of resources. Sometimes our family would actually avoid celebrating festivals because we don't even have the resources to buy the food to exchange gift as other families would. And when I was around 9 years old, I actually overheard a conversation that my parents had when they thought I was asleep, where both of my parents were crying and sobbing very quietly, that they realized they didn't have enough money to send us to college. And I remembered feeling very, very helpless and wanted to help. And what I started to do is I started to cut out printing papers into small little note card and started to sell that to my friends back in school at 10x the cost. And I'll get all this coins and paper notes, and I would sneak the coins and paper notes into my parents' wallet so that they will have a little more money. I also at the time hated homework. My teacher would use a bamboo cane to cane me. If the audience in Asia who grew up in the time that I did, I'm sure you can relate to that experience. And oftentimes my hands would bleed, right? But I really hated the homework and I would never do them. And growing up in middle school, all of my teachers and friends would call me the stupid one. And I'll tell you why I'm talking to you about these stories, and I'll kind of relate it back to later on, which is very important to my pivoted point. When I turned 12, I quickly realized that the coins that I was sneaking into my parents' purse was never adequate to send me to college. I need a different plan. I realized college was way more expensive than what you can get at the time. And I heard that the Malaysian government would sometimes sponsor a couple of national scholars for a Fulbright scholarship every year if their grades are good and or if they're active in extracurricular activities. So when I was 13 years old, I went to a new high school. I saw that as an opportunity to rebrand myself and to get really active and get the scholarship I wanted. Fast forward, I got 3 Fulbright scholarships that allowed me to come to Michigan for school to study math, economics, and entrepreneurship. And right after the graduation, I joined Google Cloud. When I joined Cloud, we only had 30 people in the company. And fast forward 6 years later, the company has grew to 32,000 people. I was offered 9 roles in the span of 6 years, none of which that I applied for. All of the roles that I got offered to within Google was roles that was presented to me. And I'll share with you how and why those pivotal moments really happened for me. I've worked in 3 continents for Google Cloud. I've worked in Dublin, Singapore, Malaysia, Mountain View, and right now Austin. In my very latest role, I was the head of account development for Google Cloud when I was managing a team of 50 to 60 people. I was in a very fortunate situation where 7 months into my first role, I was already offered a people management position within Google, which is not common because they typically would require you to apply for a new position after your first year, and then people management position will take a little longer, right? And I think that one of the few things that I want all of you to kind of take away from these slides are 3 things. Number 1 is take ownership of your journey. You can't choose your starting point, but you can always own your ending point. And it's okay that you don't have all of the resources today. Because the one quote that I've heard was the best time to plant a tree was 10 years ago. The next best time is right now. So as we're going through these slides, I want you to pay attention to the tips and tricks that I'm sharing with you. Before you say, I'm going to do this, ask yourself, do you agree or do you not agree? And make a decision before you take people's advice and see how that really resonates with you, right? And then as part of the best practice I will share is also take the note. And I will go to a little details why that is important. So number one was take ownership. Number two, work very, very, very hard. Hard work matters. People may not see all of the work that you are putting into it. That is fine. You are not here for a popular show. You are here to get what you want in life. And then lastly is you can have it all. Start by following your heart, creating your own path. At the end of the day, yes, you can have the wealth, the happiness, the family, and the career path that you want. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. Cool. As we are going through the slides, if you have any questions, feel free to put in the chat. And Carol and Vaibhav will kind of help moderate that. And throughout the presentation, we'll also have spaces for them to kind of surface it out the mostly asked question. There are 5 agenda items for this specific talk, and then the rest of the time we'll use it for a question. Number 1, find your Ikigai and what that means and how do you do it. Number 2, pick the right problem and think 10x on solving them. 3, take the note. 4, managing up. And 5, establish your personal board of directors. All of these are extremely important, especially if you are starting your career. For people who have 0 to 3 years of work experience, all of these are some of the things that I want you to kind of think through and write it down for the first 90 days as you're going through the career as well. For people who are in mid-career who is trying to pivot into your next thing, finding your Ikigai, picking the right problem to solve, and taking the note will be more important than the last 2 for you, because you most probably have done managing up as well as establishing your personal board of directors by now. Okay. It's easiest to think about Ikigai as an intersection or the common ground between what do you love to do? These speak to your passion. Second, what are you good at? To speak to your profession. Third, what does the role needs? To speak to your mission. And fourth, what can you get paid for? This speaks to your vocation. Why is it important to have this figured out as soon as you can? An Ikigai can serve as a compass to navigate both your career and life decision, which it seems like people crave it for more than ever right now. It makes me happy to see that. It makes me happy when I see kids or teenagers says, I don't want to do that. I have choices. Why will I listen to you? Damn right. You don't have to listen to people. Do what you want. Do what feels right to you. There's a lot of path out there that is not being created or open. Go do what you like and try to find intersection of what you're good at, what the role needs, as well as what can you get paid for. Right? I compared this to the journey that my parents had to go through. They were not in a position where they can actually choose what they want to work on. They were in a position where they had to think about what is the most effective way to get money to put food on the table. But time has changed. Economy has gotten better. A lot of us can avoid choices. And I'm really happy to see that trend's kind of popping up right now for a lot of us. My biggest fear is that one day when I wake up when I was 45 years old, is waking up, and I visualize this a lot of times. 45 years old, waking up in the bed, and I'm the executive of the company, working on a lot of projects and solution, and pretty wealthy at the time, in a big house. But I'm not happy on the bed. I'm not passionate about what I'm working on. I'm not passionate about the thing that I'm selling. And I would ask myself, how did I get here? How did I get it so wrong that I have all the money that I can ask for, but I'm not making an impact in the world? I'm not showing up to the people who are important in my life, and I'm not pursuing my call. I know I will be financially very independent in the future, and that is not what I'm thinking about right now, right? I want to make sure that I'm not being tied to a golden handcuff that's being given to me. If you don't have an anchor of where you want to go, it will not be easy for you to identify the criteria or values that are important to you. And you will most likely end up taking a path that is most commonly taken. And a lot of what people think is good may not be the best for you. And I know that some of you has submitted some questions prior to the session, and I will share a little on, and one of the question is, how did I find my Ikigai? And I will share some very practical ways for all of you to do. Number one, what I did was I practiced starting to talk to the 30-year-old self when I was 15 years old. When I was 15-year-old, I always closed my eyes and have envisioned talking to my own self, but I'm 30 years old. And I will always ask and have this conversation with that person, also named Hailey. And I asked, what can I do to make you proud? What can I do to make you happy? And what can I do to make you want to be excited about life? And at the time when I was 15, the things were fairly simple, right? I want to make my dad proud. I want to show my sister that we can all do it, no matter what our circumstances are. And the last thing is, I really want to stop doing house chores. My mom would make sure that I learn how to do all of the house chores at home, because there's an expectation in where I grew up where females should know how to cook, should know how to do a house chore, and etc. And I hated it. And I was just talking to myself like, when I'm 30 years old, wouldn't it be great that I don't have to do any of that and I can outsource it? Wouldn't it be great if I can hire people to do that for me? And I knew in order to fulfill that goal for myself at 30 years old, I need to be very financially independent. And I hated to do house chores so much that I would go through hours and hours of studies just so I don't do house chores. So practice number one is practice visualizing, talking to the future self. Ask yourself what you need to do right now to make that future self happy. Thing that I do number two is practice visualization of success. If you ask me right now, how would my house look like, my dream house, I can tell you exactly the details of the house. It has 15 rooms, and all of the rooms has a specific features to it. And it has a helicopter pad, it has a swimming pool, and I can break down to you how I envision myself walking through the house and how it made me feel. Visualizing your success make you face the reality that this is actually what you really want. I've seen people where they can't visualize their future because of fear. they will stop themselves at the moment where they feel like, I think I want this, I want this, I want this, and they fear of speaking it out, they fear of making an ask, they fear of telling themselves what they actually want in life. And visualizing will help you to go through that. For me to start visualizing, I had a lot of challenges. I literally had to practice it. Because when I think about success, I think about it as a huge goal that is not attainable, right? But I slowly, throughout the years, I was able to get a goal that is big, but I'm comfortable about it. And so the next time when success really comes into your life, you're not surprised by your success. Some people, without visualization, they may kind of go over and the success may surprise them at different phase of their life, and they will take a step back. They take a step back because there's a fear of success. There's a fear of maybe they will lose this. There's a fear of this may not be permanent. But that fear will be taken away if you start your practice of visualization early on in your career, early on, like right now. And you'll be able to have this welcoming spirit, welcoming energy to welcome the success in your life. Lastly, tell your story. Say it out loud. Say it to people, say it to yourself, look into the mirror. Your brain gets it. Your brain listens to what you tell yourself. If you tell yourself you want to be successful, if you tell yourself this is what you want, this is what your passion is, your brain gets it. Your body language gets it. The way that you communicate with people, they read it. Passion is so powerful, and don't forget to use them. And when you tell the story to other people, right, the other good thing about it is you automatically create the accountability from other people, for yourself from other people. When you tell yourself that I'm going to have a house with the 15 rooms with a helicopter patch, you have said it, and now you have to do it, right? So telling people is a very powerful tool for you to not only visualize it for yourself, but also have people around you to support you on that too. Okay? So a couple more things that I want to share is you don't have to force yourself to come up with the answers in one sitting. In fact, is it more productive for you to take your time as you're finding your Ikigai? Because some of you are still new to this concept. It took me literally 4 years for me to really consolidate what I really care about, what I'm good at, what the role needs, and what I can get paid for. If those questions aren't sparking as much insights for you, here are a couple of things you can think about too. Look back in your life when you're a kid, when you're teenagers, when you're at an amusement park. What would make you happy? Is it time with friends? Is it time with family? Is it working on the new project? Or is it saving costs? What is it that makes you happy? Pay attention to that. So start doing that. And then also ask, what do you want to be known for? Right? If you're interacting with your friends and family, what are some adjectives that they would use to describe you? And list that down and ask, is this what I want to be known for? Or is it a different set of adjectives that you want to be known for? And how can you bridge that gap? So I shared a little story earlier about when I noticed my parents didn't have enough money to send me to college, I would cut off papers and into note card sizes and send it sell it to my friends at 10x of the price. I noticed very quickly when I was really young that I'm very good at business and trading. It was just very easy for me to understand why people buy and why people would not buy, right? And I would start trading homeworks when I was in high school. So an example was I hated to do homework, right? As I shared earlier in my talk. In high school, I would go to my teachers and say, hey, I have a proposal. I don't like to do any of the homework. What if if I'm able to teach you exactly what a homework attempt to tell me to learn, if I can teach you and you are happy with that, I will teach the rest of the class, and in return, I will never have to do homework. So the entire 5 years in my high school, I don't turn in homework because I started trading favors with all of my teachers, my math teachers, physics teachers. The only teachers I don't trade with was biology and history, and I hated those subjects. Right? So those are just some of the example of what you can pinpoint to your past life of what you're good at. And it really helps me to anchor my future because I know I'm good at trading and I want to stay in business. Okay, so I want to summarize this slide by saying that yes, you can have it all. It does take practice and patience to understand what you need, who you are, and what you want. But remember, passion is power. Passion is attractive. Take advantage of that. Don't let the fear stop you. Okay. So the second slide, and I presented this to my internal teams at Google as well. It's very important to pick the right problem to solve and think about 10x solution as you're scaling the solution. When you pick a right problem to solve, ask yourself, why does it matter? If you don't do this, what will happen? If you do that, what will happen? And also ask, why me? Why should I be working on this problem and not other people? And I'll give you an example. In my month 6 with Google, I noticed really quickly that internally we had a huge budget, X million of dollars. I cannot disclose the amount, but X million of dollars budget left within an organization that is left untapped. And I was just sitting around and just look at my teammates. Is like, are we not using this money, or what are we going to do with this, right? So overnight, I came up with a plan for my manager and say, if I have this X amount of money, this is what I would do it. And really proving out the ROI. For ROI means return on investment for people who are not used to that term. It means that if I put in a money into something, I expect a positive return on my investment, right? Positive ROI means that you're getting money out of it, there's a profit. Negative ROI means you put money into something and then you lose the money. So gamble is most probably a game that has negative ROI. And I ask myself, why does it matter, right? Why does it matter that I need to spend so much time to think about how to maximize this $1 million? And I was able to come up with very, very solid reasons of why we needed that money to scale Google Cloud business. We had no marketing at the time, not a lot of resources, not a lot of people know who we are in the market, and a lot more reasons. And I decided to say that, made a proposal to my manager, got the budget, and 6 months into my first role, I was given that $1 million of budget to manage by myself because the proposal was really well liked. And also I asked myself, why me? Why can I do it better than anyone else? Why should that money comes to me instead of other people, right? What is so unique about you picking on this project that is going to give a 10 times more return on investment instead of like the 5 times more return on investment? You got to understand what makes you unique, and don't pick all of the project that is out there to solve. Pick projects that is out there that you can maximize the most ROI. Because guess what? We all don't have the time in the world. We only have 24 hours in a day. So pick the problem that matters, that you can make the most impact on. Second is solving 10x. I found that a lot of most creative, innovative solution comes from combining a lot of best practices, or comes from collaborating with a lot of people. This is where, if you have an idea, remember to reach out to your colleagues from different functions, from finance, from operation, from marketing, from sales, from product, all of that, because all of them has a different way of thinking on the same problem. If you can combine everyone else's thought process, you're able to solve it 10x. Because your point of view is going to be so unique that each department may or may not have thought about that problem. And lastly, scale it. I'm known for spinning up something, get it to a point that has a positive ROI, and then engineer myself out of the role. If I can't scale it, if I can't engineer myself out of the role, I'm not doing myself a job, right? You want to do it so well that people want to replicate it. You want to do it so well that if you're solving a big problem, everyone needs to use it. So everyone in here, there's 93 of you here on the chat. For a majority of what you do, think about how can you get it to a point that you can scale it, and that thing will continue to function with or without your presence. Lastly, we have heard about the terms work smart but not work hard. My thought is hard work takes you to the top, but smart work keeps you there. And also, hard work matters. It doesn't have to be work hard or work smart. You have to do both. In fact, my opinion is before you can work smart, you must work hard. And it has to come both at the same time. When you are working really hard, you are committing to the problem itself. And you're understanding a problem deep enough, big enough, you'll be able to identify solutions that other people may not. And if you did the right thing earlier on that I said, picking the right problem, the solution that you will have will be so impactful. And guess what? People notice your hard work. Maybe not 100% of it, but even 10% of your entire hard work being noticed. All you need is one sponsor in your company notice that and give you an opportunity, you'll be able to go to the next step. I've shared earlier where within the 6 years I've been with Google, I was offered 9 roles that I didn't apply for. And all 9 roles came from managers or directors or managing directors within Google Cloud. But some of them I've worked with, some of them I have not worked with before. And the reason why they will reach out to me is when they have a position open, they will ask their colleagues and say, who do you think is best fit for this position? And my name will always pop up, whether it is a sales position, marketing, sales, or operation, or GTM, go-to-market strategy planning. And the reason was I spent so much time trying to understand how businesses work together in all different segments. And when the problem comes up, my hard work was noticed, and my sponsors decided to give me opportunity on that. I think we want to take some time to answer some of the questions from the audience too, as a break.
Yep. Thanks, Hailey. We've got a few questions flowing in. Okay. The most popular one is from Katrina. What if you tell your loved ones or your friends about your visualization, your future visualization, but you don't get the support?
Okay, I have 2 things to say. So number one is, if your partner, if your spouse does that, maybe that is not the right spouse for you. If you are not married, think about it before you sign that, sign a contract. I think that if you have a choice, you should always pick a partner that is supportive of who you want to be and where you want to go. But I also understand that the reality is family members that you don't get to choose in the situation that you're born into. Um, Sometimes the reality will not change. Sometimes that is the reality where your family members will not ever be supportive of what you want to do. And that is because they have a set of beliefs that is so ingrained in them and it's really hard for them to change. If that is your reality, think about what skill set you need to be successful without their support. Find permission to be successful from other people. Build a network, build a friend groups, family members, cousins. Find people who can fill in that gap for you. Believe it or not, when I got my scholarship, 3 of the Fulbright scholarship I got, and joined Google, stayed in the US, my parents were never supportive of that. They didn't want me to come here and study. They want me to stay in Malaysia. And it was a lot of internal battle. And I knew that I needed to still go without the support, and it was really hard for me because I'm really close to my dad. And but luckily for my situation, I knew that deep down my parents really love me, and I knew that my decision will be correct. And I also have this confidence that they will change their mind. I have this confidence that the choice that I'm taking will be so successful that when they see it, they will be like, you're right. So my situation is a little more fortunate that I'm able to kind of pivot things around. But I understand that it may not be the reality for everyone. If you can have that, remember to rely on external support from your friends and family.
All right. Katrina, I hope that answers your question. If at any point any of you, you have like a counter question, or you just want to discuss further, you can always do that. Hailey, we'll take another one. So 2 people have asked a similar question. One is Shukri and the other is Vipul. And this is about, maybe I'll summarize both their questions into one. So you spoke about chasing your visualization of what you want to be, your passion, so on. How do you balance that with immediate financial realities, right? So whether it's them needing to continue in a job, or there's some other upcoming financial worry. That's a crux of both of these questions.
Um, I always start with the question of what is the most minimum amount of money I need to survive? And not I want to, that I want, is I need to survive, right? What is the most minimum amount of money that I need to put a roof on top of me and to afford the food I want? It may not be the fanciest food, but it makes me survive. Write that down and then ask yourself the second question: what and how long can I stay there for? Right? Is if I'm leaving to the most scrappy way that I can live like that. Be very truth of yourself. Can I do this for 2 years? Can I eat rice and eggs and some soy sauce? And I think that is a comfort food a lot of people in Southeast Asia. For almost 2 years and be healthy and have some vegetables. Can I start cooking myself instead of going out? That asking that questions over how long can you do that will give you a timeline on when you can afford to take the risk before coming back. So I think that if correct me if I'm wrong, I think you're asking this question from the perspective of I have a job right now, but I may want to pivot into a new career or new job or taking entrepreneurial route. Timeline is very important on when to make sure that you don't put everything in together and affect the rest of your life. So I would ask yourself the question, what is the most minimum resources you need at this point, and how long can you survive with that most minimum resources?
All right. All right. So we have a couple more questions, but should we take that a bit later?
Yeah, sounds
Okay,
good.
let's move on. I've noted down the remaining questions and take it later. Okay.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I think we have 2 more slots so we can answer the questions as well.
Yeah.
Okay. And this slide will be a quick one too. The third very important career tips that I will want to make sure all of you take away is take the note. The biggest problem is that we don't often get the feedback we need to inform our self-perception, to understand what is going on around us, and so forth. Giving hard feedback is hard. It's challenging. Not everyone has the skill set to be able to give you a very productive but hard feedback. Even your managers. Not everyone is trained to do that. So a lot of people, guess what, would avoid giving you the hard feedback. And a lot of things that people think about, you won't be able to hear it. You have to see it, you have to observe it. So I focus a lot on unspoken feedback. Take a lot of notes on unspoken feedback. So take the notes means that observing something or hearing something and then really understanding what that means and decide if you agree or disagree with that specific feedback, right? All of us are very exposed, are very known, have experience in getting spoken feedback, where people come to you and say, hey, I think you are emotional in that meeting that we had earlier. Or, I think that you don't have a good executive presence. I think you're being too ambitious. I think. Or your manager may tell you a formal feedback and saying that your performance has decreased last quarter as compared to this quarter, and I think that because X, Y, and Z. When you have a spoken feedback, I always do make sure that I analyze that feedback in 3 ways. Number 1 is, what is being communicated to me? What is the fact? And what is the subjective side? What is the objective side of the feedback, and what is the subjective side of the feedback? An example that I can give you was when I first started out career, people would say this comment to me, and it makes me laugh right now. They would come to me and like, what happened to you? You look very mad all the time. And that was a very interesting feedback or observation, right? Looking mad is one thing of what the other people perceive. And I try to ask myself, why do they say that? And what are they looking at? And do I agree? And I quickly realized that I have a resting bitch face, that I don't say anything when I look into a straight eye. I just look mad, right? And I've really appreciated when the colleague came up to me and said, why do you look mad all the time? I don't agree with the feedback, but I appreciated someone that pointed out to me on something that I never noticed, right? And now moving forward, I may or may not change my behavior, but being aware of the feedback and why someone says something or understanding their point of view really helps me to understand what other people could see as well. What I want to focus on is the unspoken feedback. What is not being communicated to you? Have you ever been in a situation where you went through an interview process and everyone liked you and you thought that you're going to get the interview, you thought you're going to get the role. At the end of it, you didn't get the role. And you want to ask them, they say, well, because there's more competitors out there that are better than you. Is that it? Is that just because there are people better than you? Or is it because there is something else that is lacking that is not being communicated on, being communicated to you? That is one scenario that I see pop up a lot. Or second scenario, you may or may not notice that your manager keeps assigning high priority, high visibility projects to your colleagues and never comes to you. But in your interaction with the manager, everything seems really good. Or if you talk about the feedback or anything formal, everything seems really well. But you know something is not right. And that's where the unspoken note is important. You gotta stop and ask yourself, what are you noticing? What is not being communicated to you? Can you get more clarity? Can you have transparency, radical transparency, and really bring that concern up to the person that you're noticing this behavior from and ask? For example, if your manager does that, literally my advice to all of you is confront that with your manager and say, dear manager, I'm noticing that I haven't had any projects, high priority projects that you're assigning me to. I just want to make sure that we are aligned on the things that I can bring to the table. And would you agree? So before you say that, I want to make sure that I can also add value. Start with saying the observation that you say, right? I'm noticing that I don't have a lot of high priority projects I'm working on. And ask them to calibrate with you on the feedback that you notice. And ask them, would you agree with my observation? And hear what they say. Do they agree? Do they not agree? Right? And keep asking why and why and why. Get to the root of the problem to see why the decision hasn't been going to the direction that you wanted to. Okay? Test your hypothesis. Ask a lot of people. So take the note is very important. Focus on what is not being spoken by people around you. Sometimes will get you more feedback and valuable insights that you don't often get. I want to make sure that all of you understand this piece as well. Take the note, but you don't have to disagree with. You don't have to agree with all of them. Take the note. Decide if you want to agree or disagree. All notes can be useful, but not all notes are important. As you're observing things, make sure that you don't let the noises cloud your perception. Okay? All right, I just have 2 more slides to go, and then at the end we'll leave for more questions as well. The slide number 4, we talk about managing up. Everyone has bosses. Even the CEO, entrepreneur, everyone has bosses. It's just what kind of bosses. If you're a CEO of the company, your bosses is a consumer. Your bosses could be the board of directors, right? Even if you're at the top of the pyramid, you have bosses. That also means that everyone there's not top of the pyramid also have bosses. The tips of managing up is very, very important. I think that there's a lot of resources out there that focus on managing down, meaning managing people that is on your team that reports into you. But there's not a lot of resources out there that teach you how to manage your own boss. Managing up is figuring out how to be a genuine source of help to your manager. It's not sucking up. It's just trying to be helpful. And the tips I can share here is empathize with your manager, be aware of their assumptions, understand what makes your manager ticks. People on my team understands really well. If anything that violates the integrity really makes me really, really, really angry. And none of them would do that, would try to do that on purpose. People who lie, people who cheated on the Salesforce or sales numbers and all that, they know it makes me unhappy and they will never do that. And the same thing, some managers may have different styles. They may really don't like an hour meeting because in their opinion, they can get it done in 30 minutes, right? Try to adjust your style to your manager's style in a way that makes it easy for you to help them. Also, knowing the right problem to bring a problem knowing the right way to bring a problem to your boss. Not everyone likes to be, not everyone has the same preference in understanding a problem or solution. My team has learned that before you bring a problem up to me, I want to understand what kind of solutions you have tested out. Because if not, if you bring a problem to me, I'll just look at it and say, what can I do? Or what do you want me, how should we move forward from this, right? So understanding that, so when the team comes to me with problems, say, this is a problem I'm facing, I've tried X, Y, and Z, my challenge is still this, that allows me to engage in the conversation more. Lastly, disagree often with the manager, but in the respectful and productive way. I'm not sure if all of you can relate to this experience where there's always one member on the team who would just disagree with the manager or peers for every single thing that they say. They are not thoughtful in picking their battles, and there's a lot of tension they're creating. I would suggest not to do that at all. It's not a productive behavior. You're creating tensions between two people that it could easily be solved by making it more productive and just having a conversation, right? There's always a way to disagree in a productive and respectful way. There's a lot of books out there. Read about it, okay? Lastly, set boundaries. At the end of the day, managers are managers, and some could be friends, some could not be friends. Don't let everything that they say or don't let everything that they do impact what you do day to day. I think we have a question time too, before we go to the last slide.
Hey, Hailey. Yeah, we've got a few more questions that have come in. Let me just take them in order of popularity and relevance both.
Okay.
Okay, so here's a slightly popular one. It's a bit related to some of the things that are spoken a bit earlier, but yeah. So how do you, if let's say you're someone who's like a jack of all trades, master of none, how do you decide the best career path, right? How do you find what you're actually good at and where do you specialize?
Good questions. I think I started that. I was in that position a few years ago when I was able to do anything. Was able to do marketing, sales ops, and all of it. Put me in there, I can do it. The pivotal moment really comes in when when we talk about the Ikigai idea, right? Earlier on, let me go back to that. Okay, when you're deciding your next steps, what you're good at and what you love is not the only two criteria. You got to think about what does the world need and what can you get paid for, and try to maximize that pie chart, right? What does the world need sometimes also require, and I won't cover this in this talk, but I did in the past, is what I call anticipate the change. The reality that we're living in right now will not stay the reality in 5 or 10 years from now. The market changed, customers changed, need change, everything changes, right? What does the role need? Typically require questions. What does the role need 5 to 10 years from now? An example would be, if you know me, you know that I'm extremely passionate in drone tech. Drone tech is a field of study where we want to leverage technology to help the senior people, to help with their mental health, to help with their physical health, and really solving the loneliness issues that I'm seeing from the senior people, right? But if you're the reason why I start thinking about that as a pivot into what the role needs is because there was one day I was looking, I was reading a white paper that kind of shows me where the baby boomers may retire, when the baby boomers will retire, and what's the population of the people within above the age range of 65. And I already foresee 15 years from now, we will have a huge opportunity as a market to help the senior people, because a lot of people are retiring. There's a lot of people in that population, and a lot of people are living longer. So people who are in retirement 15 years from now is going to need a solution. right? So as you're thinking, I'm coming back to the question. As you're thinking about what your next step should be, if you're a master of everything, think about what can you use that skill set for. Think about where the world needs you 10 years from now, not 5 years, not 3 years. Because getting a solution to be so precise and have so much impact, I believe that you need to work hard understanding the problem first. So that is my advice. Does it help?
Oh, all right, folks. So if you have any other follow-up questions, you can ask them out. Let us, but that was quite descriptive, Hailey. Thanks a lot. Go to the next one. Okay, it's an interesting question related to take the notes. Okay, there's a question from Whipple, which is, it's difficult to gather unspoken, gather around unspoken feedback. Can you share a few tips on how I can notice it, right? With the team. Yeah.
Good question. I love that question. So what are some of the tips I've used to notice unspoken feedback? There are some, the easiest way, I would say tier one easiest way is to look at people's action, not words. Actions are when someone decides to give something to someone else and not you. That's number one. Number two is body language. You can tell a lot by if people like you or don't like you by their body language. Are they open to you, or are they trying to like close up a little, right? And your managers, they may say feedback like, I really appreciate all your work and all that, but their body language is not telling the same tone. That would be a good note to kind of look into, right? It could be that manager itself just do that for everyone, then it's okay. You kind of validate your hypothesis. So that is another example, is understanding people's action, body language, and differences. So understanding people's baseline. So an example would be, if you start working for me, with me in my earlier team, the very common feedback that I got was like, well, I don't think Hailey likes me. Right? That is a very interesting feedback that a lot of people who first interact with me would get. And as they are spending more time with me, they would realize that she's just really intense, and that it's just her asking a lot of questions, right? So I think that when you start connecting with your own feeling and be curious about exploring a little more, that is also a good way to kind of explore what is not being spoken. So an example that I just given, right? I think Hailey doesn't like me. Thinking about a feeling, it makes me feel uncomfortable. Checking with yourself, noticing that, and really explore what makes that happen will be another good way for you to kind of see about it too. And lastly is listen to the words in between lines. Managers cannot say a lot of things. They cannot. Confidentiality about where the team is going, headings, resources, is their job sometimes to dissect and include the communication plan in a very different way that they can't disclose everything to you. But ask in a different way to see if they will be able to hint you or give you a gray area, and read between lines. I hope that helps.
Right, that's quite descriptive. Hey, folks, keep upvoting any questions that you see. I'm going to move to the next one. By the way, I've personally found the body language to be a really good indicator, Hailey. It's something, I'd read in high school, and I just mentioned a book there by Alan Pease that just fascinated me.
Mm-hmm.
Helpful for more than workplace.
Yeah.
The next one is from Milka. Okay, interesting question. So Milka says, he's at a stage where guess is a bit junior, or that I'm at a stage where my opinion will not be heard, or if I give an opinion, my director might say you're too young or inexperienced, and so I need to stop talking. Do you have any suggestions other than leaving my job? So
Okay. Good question. I think a lot of people are in the same boat for that. Two pieces. Number one piece is I'm hearing that your feedback is not being heard. Second piece is you're too young. Number one, if your feedback is not being heard, try, I'm going to go back to the slide that I mentioned earlier. Try manage up. Okay. Here. When your feedback is not being heard, try a different way of saying the same thing to the same person. Understand what the criteria is, understand what makes them tick, understand what they value. If the manager values about cost reduction or increased revenue, everyone has a goal within organization to do something. Personal goal, professional goal. Try to pivot whatever you're trying to pitch into the language that they care about. An example, I just shared with you the $1 million, oh sorry, X million dollars. We should check that out. X million dollars of budget I got 6 months into my first role. The reason why that landed really well is because I was able to leverage that, and I know that my manager cares about increasing the ROI and reducing the costs. Right? I was able to pivot the same story into a language OKR or target that they care about, and usually it will resonate better. So, I think that the first piece of it is if people don't isn't resonate to your feedback or your opinion, try a different way to see if it will land. Second is that you're too young. I personally have experienced that a lot, right? I kind of dismiss it a lot of times because that to me is a very subjective, it contains a lot of biases, right? I think what he or she is trying to meant to say is it too young in the age? Is it lack of experience? Is it that you don't have a specific knowledge in a certain area? Or is it that I just feel like I have more experience than you? I would typically stay away from managers who always have biases like that. If you can't, try to change the perception of your managers that sometimes, and a lot of times, young people can do things better than older people. A lot of times. An example is stereotypically, technology. Who is better? Stereotypically, the younger people. Connecting on social media, TikTok. Who is better? Younger people. Video games. 65-year-old, 80 years old, or 14 years old. Who is better? Younger people. Right? So the perception of younger people are not as good is absolutely wrong. We need to change the perceptions of the people they're working with, that young people also have skill set to bring to the table. And it's not good or bad. It's just different, and the company needs it too. I hope that helps. So let me summarize that. Is changing the perception on, number one, is the way that you communicate it. Number two is changing the perception of the other people that young is sometimes better too. I think we need to go to the last slide. Yeah? And then we'll wrap this up really quickly.
And then we'll look at any other questions. Yeah.
Okay, sounds good. All right. The last slide is establish your personal board of directors. Behind every successful person, there's always a group of people, a group of personal board of directors invested in their success. There's no one that can be successful without a board of directors. No one. A personal board of directors is a group of individuals you assemble in your mind for the purpose of navigating your career and life in general. This informal group typically comprises between 6 to 8 people, and who can help you with your professional development. And this 6 to 8 people will have to fulfill, consist of these five categories. Number one, the connector, the informational powerhouse, influencer, mentor, and sponsor. I'm going to go through the definition of all this and tell you how to spot them. Okay? The connector, this is a people person, one who knows and has a relationship with just about anyone. These people, their nature is they love to open doors. They love to introduce people. They love to help grow your network. I want us to take a minute right now. You probably can think of a couple of people who are very skilled at organizing well-attended social event, or a couple of people that a lot of people know their names of. They could be your connector. If you have an issue, if you want to just want to expand your network, reach out to them and ask them to help make a new connection. Chances are they will be energized by the request, and if they do, you have just found your connector. Number two, the informational powerhouse. This person always has a finger on the pulse of what is going on within the organization or within the broader business environment. Seek out this person when you need intel on the new trends, ideas, projects, opportunity, and so on. Remember the tips that I shared earlier on taking the note? They may not be able to share with you all of the information due to compliance issue, due to confidentiality, commitment, and so forth. But spend time and build trust with them. Have them at least guide you to the right direction, given the information they know, without having to tell you exactly what information they have. Third one, influencer. To identify an influencer, pay attention to who is amplifying the voices of the team in meetings, advocating for their suggestions, and acting on them. This is a person who also typically a person where the manager listens to. Have you ever been in a situation where a manager just always say yes when one member on the team just bring out any solutions or any suggestion? That person could be the influencer. And or have you could you identify someone on your team where your managers may not like or have a good relationship with, but everyone else on the team listens to that person? That is also another form of influencer, right? Influencer typically understand how things work within a setting and can help you get things done. Think about who has that natural skill set, and it's good to kind of build a relationship with that person too, because they may back you up next time that you need to ask, and it's important. Fourth, the mentor. A mentor supports your growth and development by giving advice, feedback, and guidance. And I think that a lot of people in this hangout understand the role of mentor. I'm going to kind of pass through this really quickly. The one thing that I will say is mentorship relationship goes both ways. If you find a mentor, remember to give them something too. Give them either insights or advice as well. It has to be both ways. Lastly, the sponsor. Unlike mentorship, the catch with the sponsor is that you don't choose the sponsor. The sponsor chooses you. The sponsor is always a very influential person in the company that can make a decision that can help you in your career. An example that I can give you was I shared that I was offered 9 roles within the 6 years at Google. And a lot of people, actually 60% of them who offer me a role, I've never worked with them ever in the past. And when they came to me with an offer, I was surprised. I know I can do it, but I was surprised of how they got my name, right? And I think that that was because I had a lot of sponsor that speak for me when I'm not in the room. And the sponsor that I can identify in the company, which I have a lot, fortunately, within Google, all pay attention because I really spend a lot of time making sure that my solutions, my work ethic, and my integrity is what they want to support of, right? So do your hard work, paint your story, tell people, let the sponsor pick you. If you can acquire such group, the effect can be spellbinding. Your professional network will increase, you will have more chances, and you will be able to get into a role that you will be really happy to. Lastly, I just want to leave this to you, is we have talked about finding your Ikigai. I want you to think about what is the story that you want to tell. There's no greater agony than bearing an untold story inside you. Who do you want to be known for? Do you want to be known for as a professional? Do you want to be known for making a mark? Do you want to be known for a good parent? Do you want to be known for a good friend? Be thoughtful about your story because because that is important as you are pivoting your career. I'm going to stop there and see if we have any last question. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Hailey. All right. There are folks, we will be taking some other questions, so you can stay on the call. All right, let me there are 2 to 3 questions that are essentially asking the same thing. You know, there are times when we mess up, right? So people have asked, hey, you know, I've screwed up multiple projects. How do I change the perception now? Because now I'm no longer being given anything important. And then there is a direct question to you, like, can you talk about some time when you screwed up? And how did you tackle that? I think it's a very important question.
Yeah, a very important question. I laughed at it. The tips of screwing up is once you realize that you screwed up, immediately tell everyone who is involved and apologize for your mistake. Explain how it happened, own it with great humility, and if you have the time, be able to find a solution at the spot, do that. If not, I think a genuine explanation of what happened and owning your mistake and telling them what should not be done in the future is helpful. I would say I've lost the organization in the span of like maybe 3 minutes, $750,000 in a mistake that I did really quickly. That I proved something without really thinking through that I should not have proved, number one. But long story short, once I proved, things went out, and I quickly realized that I did a mistake. I immediately, and I was scared. Let me tell you, when you realize you have a big mistake that you know your manager will not be happy, it's very scary to talk about it. Very scary to kind of share exactly what happened, and if the mistake includes your carelessness, which I'm not happy when I'm careless, right? It's my brand. Really owning the mistakes helps. So what I did was I made a company lose $750K of profit, and I literally immediately went to my manager's desk and say, hey, can I have a chat with you? And I brought her into a room and show her the document and ask her, what are you seeing? I was trying to see if she'd noticed it, right? And she didn't. And I pinpointed a problem to her and say that this is going to yield the company a loss of $750K. And it was very fortunate for me to be able to have a manager that is supportive, where we were trying to brainstorm what are some solutions that we can do. And we explore all of the solutions, calling people, revert that decision, etc. and it didn't. We ended up really have to lose that $750. And that is okay, because one of the things that I've done before that was I've always chosen my manager. And choosing a manager who I know will be okay with the mistakes in the future is important for me, because I'm a person who experiment with things, and hence as a result they can get more ROI too, right, from my experimentation. So if you want to know my story, that was one that I made a mistake, talked to my manager. It was scary. We tried to find solution together, could not find one. It did not take the good projects out of me, because my manager was very supportive of giving me other chances. Now, if your manager are not a person that can do that, ask yourself if there is any pivotal moment that you can take advantage of in changing that idea. If the answer to that question is no, they are very, very not willing to change and want to punish you, maybe look for other managers, maybe look for other companies. Remember, you can have it all. You can have a good career, you can have a good manager, you can get paid. So keep finding until you get there.
That's, I mean, hey, thanks a lot for the candidness there, Hailey. You know, while you were talking, I just put a poll there. Who wants us to call successful people to talk about their failures? And a lot of people are there screw up, right? We are probably going to have a dedicated session around that, where everyone comes and talks about how they screwed up. I think it's important.
I like that idea.
Yeah. All right. So there is, what's the next question? No, Vibha's question was a bit similar to the unspoken feedback earlier. So, okay, this question was actually seeded. Okay, let me go to the next question. There are some that people had asked while registering. Okay. Okay, maybe I'll ask this one. You spoke about influencers, mentors, and connectors. Can the same person fill all these roles?
They can't. The same person can fill all of that role. There's a caveat to that. I would typically would not suggest mentors and sponsor to be the same person. If they are proactively sponsoring you and you notice that, try to find mentor somewhere else. Mentor is someone who you can talk about the most silliest question and not having any effect coming out of it. They should not have too much of a power in influencing where your career should be. And it becomes more and more important as it goes up in the career ladder, because sometimes a sponsor really have to make a decision on who is going to lead a team that will cost the company $1 billion of investment. But if you have had a mentorship relationship with that person, and they know that you may not be able to do it and the risk is too high, their sponsorship may not be strong enough for you to take on that opportunity. So the answer is yes. A lot of people can take on a lot of different role, but I would want to be very thoughtful when a sponsor has chosen to sponsor you, what kind of relationship you want to have with that person.
That sounds like good advice. Okay, we've got some hey, folks. You know, I know there are some questions related to job opportunities in the US. Something we are going to park those questions aside because they're not while they're good questions, they're not in line with the topic for the day. But let me get to those. Okay, so there are a couple of questions around these, like, you know, for people to further grow their knowledge on any of these topics. Do you have any book recommendations? And there was someone who, while registering, asked for your favorite Spotify playlist or podcast.
Spotify playlist podcast. Pod,
Or any.
I would say I listen to Sia Radio on Spotify a lot, but typically I make my own playlist too. So I would say maybe Hailey Health playlist. That would be my favorite Spotify playlist. And then and my partner's playlist is really good. So I always listen to her playlist a lot. And what else? What was the second question that you have?
Oh, that was about book recommendations.
Okay. Principle by Ray Dalio is a must read, must read, must read. People who knows me know that I talk about that book day in, day out. It's called Principle. It's by Ray Dalio. Second book is Radical Candor. Radical Candor is a very good book if you want to understand how to take note. Remember I talked about taking the note earlier? And understanding how to give feedback. Very important. And the third one is the $1 Trillion Coach. Is actually a book that a team member of mine, Bruno, suggested me to read. It shares a lot about how a manager can influence someone's path. And if you inspire to be a coach, mentor, or manager in the future, this is a must-read book for you.
All right. That sounds like a good reading list. Okay, Hailey, I guess we will park the questions here for now. There don't seem to be any other upcoming votes here. There's something that came in. Do you have time for one more question? Let's just do one.
Yes, we can do one more.
Okay.
I think is it the start a career one?
Yeah, let's just take this
one.
Yeah.
Okay, I can read that.
Okay.
I have just started my career just right now, like a second ago, or 2 minutes ago. I am overwhelmed by corporate and formal culture. How do you suggest I handle this stuff? Also, I dreamt about working in computers and create amazing products, but I hate coding. Not bad, but just hate it. Any suggestion which fields I should look into? I want to build products, not coding. Oh, 1 year. Okay. I would want to understand and really understand what you mean by corporate and formal culture, because not all corporate as of today has a formal culture. A lot of companies like Google, for example, has a very informal culture, Facebook, Uber, and all that. I'm assuming that you are in the position where your corporate, your company that you are working for is pretty formal. Ask yourself if that is something that you're okay with or you want to work at. If not, can you look for companies out there that can provide you the culture that you need? Finding a great culture is very, 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 very important. You want to be happy in the company that you work in, and happy to reporting to a manager who will be evaluating your assessment, right? So I think that if you have an options, keep looking for companies that can provide you the culture that you want. Now the question is, if you cannot or feel overwhelmed, cannot pivot and have to be in the position that you are right now, and your questions then become, how can I make the best out of the situation, right? This is what I would do. Write it down on what the company's, what is it called, code of conduct is. What do they mean by formality? Is it dress code? Is it the way that you speak in the meetings? Is it the terminology that you use? Is it sometimes the tonation of meetings? Is it the way that you send emails, right? Sometimes a lot of code of conducts are action-based, and if you can see it as adjusting yourself to the actions that a company wants you to, it will help you reduce a lot of stress of trying to merge yourself with the culture. See it as this company requires me to, every time I send an email, to say hi X, Y, and Z, or every time I meet with my manager, I have to knock at the door, or things like that, right? Break it down to be behavioral things and not emotion, because that would help regulate your emotions, as you have to be stuck in that place for quite some while. And then dream about working in computers but hate coding. I don't think you need to know coding to work with computers. There's a lot of other ways out there that you can still make products without the background of coding. So I think that the first step, if I'm you, is explore what that is. The second is the reality is having coding background is going to be important. I majored in math, and the fun fact is I hated math. I really hated math. Math is my worst subject in school. And I had to major in it because I know that I needed that for my business, right? So because the importance of understanding that knowledge is greater than is greater than my frustration, I had to stick with it. And this is where the grit and hardworking and sticking through a problem will yield you a lot of results. Oh, you love math. That's good. All right, cool.
All right. Thanks, Hailey. That was, it was really great to listen to you talk, listen to you be candid, answer all the questions. And yeah, just so, I mean, not just for people starting out, I think this was useful for anybody who's a bit indecisive or has, faced any issues and or is just looking forward to doing better things. So everyone on the call, if you've had a good time or bad time or whatever, we do welcome feedback. I would request if you're in front of a laptop screen, please scan this QR code and leave your feedback. If you're on your mobile phone, just take a screenshot, and then we've also put the link on the chat. And that's going to help us improve and going to help us bring more such talks to you. And before we all leave, there's something we always do. Since we are not in the same room, but we are all joining from different places globally, we're all going to take a group photograph. So I would request everyone on the call to turn on your screens. Remember to wear that t-shirt back. Yeah, turn on your screen and
I love that idea.
yeah, and we're going to take a group photo. I can see very few screens right now. I need more screens on.
If you have puppies, I would love to see puppies. Oh, I also noticed from the poll that a majority of us prefer dogs over cats.
Oh yeah, actually, yeah, I need to share the results. So here are the results of what you all did. I cannot believe that most of the people said they love pineapple on pizza. It's the first time ever that this has happened in a poll. I mean, dog lovers is fine, okay, but yeah, I mean, love pineapple.
I also don't trust people who don't have pineapple on their pizza. So, wipe off. I don't know where this is gonna
I
go.
love
Now
it.
that
I love it. I'm in
Oh,
the
okay.
category where everything goes as long as it's free. Like
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Cool. Cool.
All
Cool.
right.
Cool.
See more photos. If we see more screens, we're going to take a screenshot. Quickly. All right. All right, everyone. Smile. Lovely. We're going to send these out to you as well. So that would be a group photo. Okay. All right. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining us. It's been recorded. I know for some of you it was early morning. Whose cat was that? That was nice. For some of you, that was an early morning. For some of you, it was late night. And yep, we're going to stay in touch. Please subscribe to our Slack, LinkedIn, and so on. We'll send you the links, and you'll keep hearing more of these. Yeah, we've got some more sessions coming up.
Thank you all.
Thanks everyone. Yep.
Have fun, enjoy life. Bye-bye.
Bye. Here's what we have coming up next week. So for some of you who are interested in design, this would be a good place. And you can follow us to stay updated. Thank you, Shashank. Thanks, Tejas. Thanks, Darren. Prashant, Yehan. Thanks, Karen. And nice cat. Thanks, Elton. Shukri. Please scan the links and so that you can subscribe to everything.
Thank you, everyone.